So remember yesterday we talked about the 4 D's. The 4 D's of discommunication, things that disturb communication and connection with others. Does anyone remember what they were?
Diagnosis.
Diagnosis, what does that mean? Let me ask you what that means.
Where you label the person according to them.
We don't just observe what they're doing, but we're passing a judgment.
Yeah, basically it's a judgment, but it's a static judgment. Remember what I said about ecstatic versus static? It's a static judgment in terms of labeling someone as being something that they do, their actual position, in terms of something that they did. Like, you are stupid. Can you give me another example of a static judgment or a diagnosis?
It's all the calling on names, right?
Yeah, give me
new
another
parties, false facing.
Yeah, but give me another example of a party or a static judgment.
Well, karma.
Karma.
It's just a karma.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now give me an example of an internal static judgment, something you call yourself. Here's another one. Something new for you.
Rascal, fallen rascal.
I am a fallen rascal. Or I am an idiot. Just like if you make a mistake, let me take this off. If you make a mistake, don't hang it up. Keep it here. So if you make a mistake, what do you say about yourself? Nobody here makes mistakes?
I'm so stupid.
I'm stupid. What else would you say? I am useless. I am hopeless. So we pass judgments on ourselves, these static judgments on ourselves do. So that's called a diagnosis. What's the second D? Or one of the other?
Demand.
Demand. What is a demand, is that?
We put demands on others. You have to fulfill my desires on
Right.
this.
It is your business to fulfill my desires. And how you could tell the difference between a demand and a request is interesting and important information. Is that a demand implies some sort of threat if you don't do it. Not necessarily a physical threat. It can be an emotional threat. That if you really want to please me, you will do well in school. Does that sound like a threat? Because implicitly, if you don't do well in school, you won't be pleasing me. And so the person wants, the child naturally wants to please the parent. So there's either an explicit or an implicit threat, or perhaps a reward. I'll give you an example of my own childhood. My mother said exactly that. If you want to please me, you'll do well in school. And then when I did badly in school, never really did that badly, but got a little less than an A, she said, this could not be the report card of my son. My son will never get less than an A. So, you ever hear anything like that?
Yeah.
Some of us have heard things like that. Yeah.
What about Barbara's quote, if you really want to please me, then please do my books?
That's an interesting question. If you really want to please me, distribute my books. But that in itself is more of a loving reciprocation on the spiritual platform. Because we understood that even if we did distribute his books, we weren't displeasing Prabhupada. It wasn't like a guilt trip. It wasn't done. It's not so much the words that someone uses, because I don't want to give the impression it's the words, it's the intention behind them. The intention is more important than the words. Communication, about 90%, some people say 88% of communication is nonverbal, which is basically body language, tone of voice, and everything like that. Now, if Prabhupada had said to some brahmachari, You're not going down to the Sankirtan. If you really want to please me, if you actually were interested in pleasing me, you would distribute books. Then the brahmachari would get the implicit message, or explicit message, as the case may be, that if he didn't distribute books, he would be displeasing Prabhupada. So it's actually not so much the words, and sometimes the devotees will use those words as an implied threat. And I've seen that too. Sometimes devotees will use the words of Prabhupada. If you actually want to please Prabhupada, you'll distribute books with the intention of saying, indirectly, if you don't distribute books, you're displeasing Prabhupada, or you're not pleasing Prabhupada. So it was Prabhupada, it wasn't really Prabhupada's intention to manipulate. It was Prabhupada's intention to sort of celebrate that he considered book distribution something very dear to his heart. So that was his intention, and at least I did not take it as a demand. I took it as a sharing of one of his innermost desires to share Krishna consciousness, and that enthused me. Whereas if someone said to me, you got to distribute books, is that all right? You got to distribute books, that would have had the opposite effect. So that's a good question. So it really depends ultimately on the intention behind the expression, not the expression itself, although I'm giving some words that indicate the intention. So anyway, so that's demand. And also we make demands on ourselves too. So we're trying to be external as well as internal, focusing externally as well as internal. When we make a demand on ourselves, that I have to do this, because if I don't do this, I'm useless, my life has no meaning. That's also a demand on ourselves. So that disconnects us from others. This sort of demand thing disconnects us from others and disconnects us from ourselves. So that's diagnosis, demand. And what are the next ones? Serve. That you deserve to be punished, or let's take it to the realm of justice, where there's this type of justice called retributive justice. Anyone's heard of this? Has anyone here ever studied legal things? There's two types of justice, basically. One is called retributive justice, and the other one is called what? Does anyone know? Starts with an R too. Restorative justice. So what that means is retributive justice. Let's say we have a criminal, okay? And the criminal has done something that we don't like stealing. So retributive justice means teach him a lesson, make him suffer, right? That's retributive justice. And that doesn't work, because we can witness what's called the recidivism rate in the prisons. Recidivism rate means the revolving door of the prisons. I think you all understand what I mean. You go into prison, you get punished, you tell the rats to come and give them some prasadam or something. No, it's better to just sit there. Don't worry about the rats.
The rat is quite huge. They paint it.
What?
The rat is quite huge and it starts to paint, so I put...
If you have a rat that paints, send him here. I need to paint it.
No, I will buy the rat. So
No. Just leave him alone. So restorative justice is something different. Restorative justice is instead of punishing the person for the sake of punishing them, because you want to see them suffer, which doesn't reform them. It means putting the person in touch with what they did, how they hurt others or didn't meet others' needs, and bringing them to the point of empathy so they understand. I'll give you an example in a second. So they understand why they should not do that again. The example is, let's say I go out in the street and I beat up Kamsahanta. He's a good example. So beat him up, even though he's a good cricket player. I'm a dacoit and I beat him up. And, I'm like Jadai and Madai or whatever, beating up people. So retributive justice would be, make him suffer, torture him. And then maybe Kamsahanta would be thinking, I really want to make him suffer. Like you see in the United States where they have capital punishment. that when they are going to kill a killer, and of course we're in favor of capital punishment too, that's a spiritual reason, but the people delight in him dying. There'll be a whole bunch of people outside the prison doing something we call tailgating. I don't know if you know what tailgating is. Tailgating is when you take your pickup trucks, you all sit on the back of the pickup truck, or the tailgate of the pickup truck. You know what a pickup truck is? That means a thing that comes down in the back. And you have the pickup truck loaded with beer. And everybody's drinking the beer, and they're waiting for the sign from the prison that the person is killed. And as soon as he's killed, there'll be like 1,000 people outside the prison. They'll all go, Jai, Haribol! Of course, they don't go Haribol. They express their elation, get drunk, because they want to see someone suffer. That's what makes them feel better. Somehow or other, that's retributive justice. It makes you feel better to see someone suffer. Wow, he got what he deserved, right? But it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't make a criminal an honest man. I mean, karmically, yes, it does work to have capital punishment. But the capital punishment in the Vedic society is not done to make him an honest man or make him suffer. It's made to relieve his karma so he can go on to his next life. Also made to protect the citizens so they don't have to deal with him if he's an actual murderer, again, and pay so much money to keep him in prison for the rest of his life. So we are definitely in the Krishna conscious movement in favor of capital punishment. Although here, most of the countries around here, they don't have capital punishment. Right. And so that's another subject matter. So restorative justice would be, let's say I beat him up on the street. Then the police caught me. Now instead of beating me, teaching me a good lesson, then what would happen is I would have to sit in a room with him, and he would explain exactly how he felt when I did what I did. He would say, when you jumped on my back in the middle of this night, I felt scared, and you started to hit me, and I'm in so much pain now, and I just have a need. Now I'm experiencing so much fright in my life, so much insecurity, and every time I hear a noise, I'm shaking. So what would happen is that if I was the criminal, I would have to exhibit some empathy towards him. Empathy would mean not simply I repeat his words, not simply I say that he's angry at me, not simply I say he's experiencing mental trauma. I would have to empathize with him in terms of his feelings and needs. He needs to feel secure. He's feeling anxiety. I'd have to show that I'm actually in connection with him. And that is an effective methodology. Mobile phone. That is an effective methodology for dealing with a criminal. Much more effective than torturing them. Because torturing them just makes them bitter. Makes them want to get even, or makes them want to commit more crimes. Or gives them some psychological trauma. So that's the second one. So actually the third one. So diagnosis, demand, deserve, and what's the last one? Denial. You made me angry. What's another denial? Can you think of another one? I drink because I'm a what? Alcoholic. You don't take responsibility. Basically, you don't take responsibility. I lied because the temple president told me to lie. It's all denial. Not to, or I killed the people, I tortured the people because that's my duty. And you hear this all the time in a religious society because people are very much inclined towards duty. And they say, well, I did this because it's my duty. Don't blame me. It's the person who ordered me to do it, it's fault. So we got the 4 Ds of discommunication, and then we have the process of empathy. So if we remember these 4 Ds of discommunication, we can catch ourselves doing these things and we think, hey, this is not going to connect me with someone else. If you actually want to become connected with someone else, actually have empathy for someone else, you may not want to. That's up to you. But we do have a need for empathy or connection with others. That is one of the basic human needs. So To avoid these four is part of the strategy, a very good strategy for connecting with others. But that's just the negative thing. So the positive thing are the different steps. Now last night we talked about 3 different steps: observations, feelings, and needs, right? Just to review that, what's an observation? Anybody know?
How others were as others.
Yeah, that's an observation. What's another observation?
The temperature inside the room.
Yeah, exact temperature. You say it's 38.245 degrees. Another observation?
Painting on the wall behind you.
There's a painting on the wall behind. How do you know it's a painting? Of course you know that. Might be a photographic reproduction. Anyway, just teasing you. So those are observations. Observation without judgment. Like if you said there's a nice painting, that's your judgment. Maybe I don't like the painting. Of course I like Panchatattva, but I may not like the proportions in this particular painting. So that's a judgment. It's a nice, it's a bad painting. So we want to just observe things, particularly when we're in a conversation or interacting with others. We can observe, let's say others say, someone says to us, "You are an idiot." So we can say, "Why are you abusing me?" That's a judgment, right? Instead, we can say, "When you said," I'm going to give you a little bit of the process. "When you said you were an idiot to me, I felt," how would I feel? Any idea?
Hurt.
Hurt, angry, depressed, shocked, terrible, disappointed. Yeah, no, disappointed is more like a judgment. Yeah, disappointed in you. You know, that's, so it has to be a feeling. Basically, has to come from here. A judgment comes from here. Remember that. A disappointment. You don't really feel disappointed. You feel sad, happy, angry. These are basic emotions or feelings. So observation, then when you said this, I felt that, and we teach you something very interesting now. You have to deal, before you can actually start to communicate with the person, you've got to deal with your own needs. I'm going to do an interesting, let's say a little interesting drama for you on that in a second. If you deal with your own needs, when he said this, I felt that, and that's because I have a need for appreciation, I have a need for love, I have a need for honesty, any one of these needs could be. And when you get in touch, forget about all these other bubbles right here, when you get in touch with your own needs, like that, you can deal with those emotions. Those emotions are no longer putting you out of whack. In other words, you don't lose your composure. And you can deal, that's a very effective way to deal with anger management. Instead of blaming the other person, which we normally do, you take responsibility. We're talking about denial again. Remember the 4 Ds of miscommunication. You take the responsibility for your feelings. This person didn't make me angry. It was my need for safety, security, compassion, love, social interaction, any one of those things. It was my need that made me angry. And then you're able to calm down pretty easy. It's a good anger management technique. Now, I'm going to give you a little drama. Can I have 4 chairs here? To illustrate how we deal with emotions, and particularly emotions that cause us pain, or emotions that indicate disconnection. Face the 4 chairs up. Just 4. So we have, does anyone have a little stick of notes or here in the temporal? Or a piece of paper, please.
You mean post-it notes?
Post-it notes, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, you have some? Okay. chair. Okay? And, oh, I don't know if the light's so small with this. So we're gonna,
Want to have a pen?
yeah, pen might be better than this. Thank you. So we're gonna label each one of these 4 chairs. This is one of my favorite exercises. The first one we're gonna be labeling. Good enough. This one is, we're going to call Blame You. Hopefully this sticks. Yeah. I don't know if you can read that, but that's what it says. This one is called Blame Me. And if you can't read it, try to remember if you can. This is Empathy. With Dodge, you should go to my word and tie. This one is Empathy with Myself. And this one is Empathy with others. Okay, got it. Here's the pen back. And here's the, oops. Wasn't so successful. So, watch what happens. I need a volunteer who can insult me. I get a little This is a play, so don't worry, you know, it's not offensive, it's...
You want me to insult
Yeah.
you?
If I'm absolved from all karma for that.
That's
We'll talk
denial.
about it later.
That's denial.
It's back. Okay, I mean, who wants to do it?
I can try to.
But you gotta really do it, you know, really insult me. Insult me that, I'm gonna sit here first. This one's the Blame You. You know, something nice like you're ugly, you're stupid, or you're boring, or something like that. But you gotta do it with feeling, yeah. Maybe we need a non-Danish person to insult. You got an Australian pretty bad at insulting.
All the Americans, you think you just own the whole world. You just walk around here and
A little more.
a little more.
And a little more personal.
A little more. Okay.
Because I'm just thinking I'm transcendental. So, you said that.
I think you old guys are completely out of touch with reality of what goes on in our movement nowadays.
We all be something. You have to do a personal.
Not with you, okay.
Yeah, not just us old guys. But I'm just thinking I'm not one of those. So,
I think you're completely out of touch with reality of what goes on here.
do it loudly.
Okay, okay.
Well, you know, you don't have the right mood to insult. I think we need an Australian, but yeah.
So,
Listen, you are completely, you know.
yeah, so I think you're completely out of touch with reality of what goes on here.
Anyway, I'll accept that. We'll do some good in acting class. So, anyway, so he said you're completely out of touch with the reality that goes on here. So, blame you would be the first response I would have, a judgment, a diagnosis. You're just an idiot. You're not spiritually advanced at all. You have no good qualities. You have no etiquette. Just useless. I mean, I thought you were half decent, but you know, now I know the truth. I'm a little better at it, I guess. So, this is an act. Don't worry about it. Don't freak out. So that's called blame you. You blame him. You diagnose him. Why don't you shut up? You know, then you give him a demand. You know, shut up. I don't want to see you anymore. And it just gets worse and worse. Okay. So another way of dealing with that is insult me again. Same thing.
Same thing. I really think you are completely out of touch with the reality of what goes on here.
Yeah, he's right. I'm just like so stupid. You know, just too old. I don't know anything that goes on here. This is my own little world. He's absolutely right. I don't know why I'm doing anything. I should just retire, go to Govardhan and just chant Hare Krishna and forget about it. And that's blame me. That's another method of responding. Okay. So these are the two methods we generally employ when someone insults us. I mean, usually that's the only two options we have, usually. But I'm going to teach you other options. And so, do it again. This one is empathy.
I really think that you are completely out
I
of
wish I
touch.
were more emotional. Anyways.
Exactly, someone
No, you did too. I'm just joking.
I think you were completely out of touch with the reality of what goes on in our movement.
And then I'll do self-empathy. This is what I'll say. He just said I'm completely out of touch, and I just feel a lot of pain. And I feel anger. I'm thinking about all the emotions I feel. I'll get in touch with the emotions. The emotions, there's no bad emotion. You know, sometimes we think pain is a bad emotion. Anger is a bad emotion. It's not a bad emotion. It's a warning sign. Just like if you're driving a car. Everybody drives a car? Knows that driving a car here? If a red light goes on the dashboard, is the red light bad?
No, it's good.
It's good, because it teaches you you've got to deal with some issue with the car. Like if the oil light goes on, that means you've got to add oil or you've got a leak in the engine. Or if the heat light goes on, that means that the fan belt is broken, something like that. So these emotions are giving me a clue as to what need I have to get in touch with. So I'm thinking about all these emotions. It said, really, I'm feeling like that. Take responsibility. I'm feeling like that. And I go through this too. I'm learning the technique. You know, people ask, why have you been angry so much? Because I've learned basically to put myself in touch with my needs that are underlying the emotions. Because all emotions come from your needs, not him. Because blaming him is not going to do me any good. So then I think, I really have a need for loving relationships, for appreciation, for encouragement, for good friendship. And I can see this guy is not going to fulfill this. So basically I employ another strategy. I'm not blaming him. It's not going to work, that's all. It just ain't going to work. So then I'm able to deal with my own emotions. Okay? So that's interesting. So, see this? That's empathy with him. The last one is empathy with him.
Whoops, how would you respond? You're just thinking, you're not responding anything.
I'll tell you how I would respond. But why don't you put that back there? First of all, I have to go through that process to cool down, so I'm able to think. If you're in a state of anger, what does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? Let's go through basic Bhagavad Gita again. Jayato Vishya Purusava Sango Stage. No, stand up again, because we're going to need you again. Do the soul things. Sango Stage Vijayate, Sangat Sanjayate, Kama Kama Krodha Vijayate. Everyone know this verse? Contemplating sense objects, you get attached. From attachment comes lust. From lust comes anger. And from anger comes bewilderment of memory. From bewilderment of memory comes lust and intelligence, and from lust and intelligence will happen. Well, it goes down to the material pool. So if you have uncontrolled anger, it's also lust, anger, and greed, the three gates leading to hell. So you better have some way to deal with anger. Now, if you deal with anger without processing it, guess what happens? There's several things that can happen. It goes internal. And then you can get so many diseases, your whole attitude, or it can pop out at the worst moments. For example, like you say that I said, oh, I gotta control my anger. Okay. And then I go home, and I'm with my friends at home, Pundarik, and Pundarik says, would you like some persona on your day? Shut up! Isn't it, you often, that was a shock for you. So you often take out the anger on another person who you feel more comfortable with. Right, isn't it? So it comes out. You can't repress or suppress anger. Suppress means you hold it down, you're aware of it. Repress, you're in denial. Those are two different ways, material ways of dealing with anger. Other than, and express means you express it. So none of those really help me that much. Either I get sick, or I'm yelling at Pundarik, or I'm beating you up and yelling at you. None of those are really productive strategies for meeting my needs. Because if I beat you up, you're not going to be my friend. I'm not going to have a loving relationship. You're not going to respect me. Perhaps even the opposite of all those things. So it just doesn't work. So I have to internally, I'm giving you a methodology for internally processing anger, which is a very important technique. Because anger does come up. I mean, another thing people do is they go out and play sports, they get angry. Or they hit a boxing ball or something. Like that. So, but the most productive means is to take responsibility for that feeling. I am angry, I'm taking responsibility for it. It's not your fault. Why am I angry? I'm angry because I have this need. It's a very effective methodology for dealing with anger or any strong emotion in a productive way. Okay. So here's empathy with others. Let me try this one. So insult me now.
So, I really do think that you are out of touch with reality, what you're talking about, movement.
Okay, so I'm thinking I have to be empathic with him, but I can't do it. Why can't I do it? Anyone have any ideas? What? I'm angry. I haven't, no, because I haven't dealt with my own feelings.
You don't agree with what he's saying also.
Yeah, well, I don't agree, yeah, obviously, but because I haven't dealt with my own feelings. If I am, like, controlled by my feelings, particularly anger, no compassion can come out of being angry. It's just, it doesn't happen. If you have unfulfilled needs, it's hard, you can't be compassionate with others. You have to be, another expression is you have to be full yourself to give to others. If you are lacking something, if you are, does anyone experience like being extremely hungry and you're told, be compassionate? It's really hard. It's like, I just want to eat. Everything I look at, even the paper, makes me hungry. I'm not feeling like that, not at this stage, but it's just like the need, you can sit down now. So actually I may need your hand, but so the need, the unfulfilled need, makes you unable to express compassion, to be compassionate. You can express anything. But it makes you unable to be compassionate for others. So, what happens is, I'll do this without an insult, is that when he insults me, I first have to go through this process. I first have to go through some self-empathy. You have to love yourself first before you can love others. That's an absolute fact. Now you may say, that's Maya. To love oneself is Maya. Well, Krishna does say that if someone is Krishna conscious, he loves all living entities, and guess what? You're one of the living entities. Krishna consciousness does not mean to hate yourself. I mean, we do this sometimes. I'm useless, hopeless, a jerk, I hate myself, torture the body. And Krishna says anyone who tortures the body, it's demoniac, he says in Gita. Because it bothers the super soul gets disturbed too. It's a demoniac thing. So the self-hate is not recommended in spiritual life. And of course, in the Catholic Church, they used to undergo all these different torturous things towards the body. In New York, I once went into this place called Ripley's, believe it or not. You ever hear about this place? And they showed all the medieval torture the monks would impose upon themselves. I was shocked. They had these hair shirts and, spikes they would lie on. And, these are the monks who want to become God conscious. There was also one movie, maybe some of you saw it, it's called The Da Vinci Code. Have you ever seen The Da Vinci Code? Where you had this one monk who was flagellating himself, getting bloody, and so it takes a lot of self-hate to do that. So we should love ourselves, not be egotistic, I'm number one, Vishwara Rama Humbagi, Siddham Bhagavan Sukhi. But I'm part and parcel of Krishna too, to take care of my basic needs. And once you do that, you take care of your own needs, you're really able to give to others. If you're not Krishna conscious, yourself, what was I just reading in Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said? The best Goshthananandi, you know what a Goshthananandi is? That means a preacher, is one who's also a Bhajananandi. It's an interesting quote, isn't it? We don't want people to be just Bhajananandis where they just sit down and just chant all day long. It's better than nothing, but that's not our process. Our process is helping others, sharing Krishna consciousness. So, but the best person to share Krishna consciousness is someone who's taking care of his own Krishna consciousness. If you don't have it, you can't give it. Have you heard that expression before? If you don't have something, you can't give it. If you're not a rich man, you can't give money in charity. So if you have Krishna consciousness, then you can share with others. So if he insults me or anyone insults me and I'm here, I will go through this whole process first. Which sometimes you call it a timeout. Sometimes you have to take a timeout instead of just reacting to him immediately. You take a timeout, your internal timeout, and that's necessary. When dealing with each other, sometimes we have to say, "Can you give me a few minutes where I process this, and then we can talk about it?" If you don't do that, you're going to end up in the heat of an argument. If you just try to respond on the spur, because naturally people will get angry. Unless you're an absolutely pure devotee, if someone insults you, you say, "Thank you for helping me advance in Krishna consciousness." And that's a rare thing. So for a pure devotee, he doesn't have to go through any process. It's just like, whoever insults me is my friend, he who praises me is my enemy, right? But for the rest of us, it's important to take responsibility and not blame others. So then you go through the whole process. When you said that, I just felt all this pain. And I just really have a need for love, I have a need for appreciation, etc. And then you feel really balanced. Then you can go here. And you don't even have to say anything, or you could say something to him. When you said that, were you experiencing anger? Because you had a need for cooperation? Or you had a need for understanding? I can ask him the question. And even if I'm wrong, that's empathy right there. Because he'll tell me. He'll tell me. He's happy that I'm actually interested in him. One of the main problems in communication is we're not interested in others. We're not present for others. We're not interested in others. We're basically interested in ourselves. That's why nowadays people pay so much money to go to an astrologer or a psychiatrist or a psychologist so that they can just talk for an hour and pay €100 for getting heard for an hour. Because most people really want to talk about themselves. That's why astrology is so popular, because you can hear about yourselves for a whole hour. Isn't that fantastic? But if they want to tell me Pundarik's horoscope, I don't want to hear it. I just want to hear about myself. What is my future? How much money will I make? Am I going through a Saturn period right now? And so this is, it's like nectar. I hear about myself. Any salesman knows that. That you talk about someone else, you don't talk about yourself. That's how you sell a product. Sell yourself by talking about that. You know, in book distribution, at least in America, you say to someone, hey, where are you from? And someone says, I'm from Denmark. Oh, I have so many friends in Denmark. I've been there in Copenhagen. What a beautiful city. You know, and you say, oh, your wife has such a nice sari on. And then you compliment them because people want to hear about themselves. So, people want empathy, people want connection. That's the one thing people are lacking more than anything else in modern society is connection and empathy. They want to feel understood, they want to feel appreciated, loved, and modern society is very hard because the nature of the communication, the nature of the family, breakup, and just the nature of social interaction. I was in one country, it was Finland, and the only time people really get friendly with each other is when they're drunk. And they're drunk, they're really friendly. You know, you walk up to someone, they're friendlier than Americans. You walk up to someone in the street, how you doing? You know, and you can smell the beer on his breath. But people have that need. In whatever country they're from, whatever culture they're from, people have that need for basic human warmth. But they're frustrated. That's why if someone drinks, it comes out so dramatically, because they're frustrated. You ever see people drunk? Because I'm sure you have. Denmark is famous for its beer. Did you know that? Danish beer you can buy all over the world. So we do have that need, and if you're empathizing with someone, saying, you know, if you just guess, you know, when you said that, you know, I don't understand anything, I'm out of touch with reality, were you feeling angry because you have a need for communication, or you don't, obviously you don't have to go through it state in such a formulaic way, otherwise it becomes like a, you know, like some sort of like robotic response. Or you don't even have to say anything. Empathy is not words, it is intention. It's how you feel. I mean, if I'm empathic with him, he just insults me, or tries to insult me, because no one can insult me. I'm not challenged by that. So no one can insult me because they can't see me. I'm insulted. I think they're insulting me, but you can't even see me. You don't know what I look like. You don't know who I am. So how can you insult me? You're saying something about the body. That happened with the discussion with Maharaj Prabhupada and Jat Bharat. The same sort of point came out. So I'm relating with Shastra right now. So, but I'll just guess. I'll just guess and I'll look at it and with compassion, if you can communicate even without words with compassion, the person will get it in most instances. You don't have to say anything in many instances. It depends on the circumstance. So this sort of illustrates the whole process right there. Interesting. That's the process in a nutshell. Maybe we can remove these chairs so we can show this. And what I'm going to do is just add one more element to the process. And that's the element of request. And that's the last element we're adding. So, in other words, this is a diagram I invented, sort of like it. You can't read it too well. So if I'm having empathy for others, I will observe what they said, just pure observation. When you said you're out of touch with reality, that's pure observation. I wouldn't say when you insulted me. That's not an observation. And were you feeling blank, blank, blank angry, for example? Because you have a need for appreciation. And then I can go in both these directions. You know, this doesn't necessarily go this way or that way. This can go this way, this way, or this way, this way, or this way, this way, this way, this way. So then I can help them understand their needs. It's interesting. You have a need, you're helping you understand you have a need for appreciation, understanding. And you might say, yes. And I would say, let's figure out how we can meet both of our needs, or how you can meet your needs. And that's helping you facilitate strategy. Or, I might make a request. Like, would you be willing, next time you want something, to approach me and talk to me in your office instead of out here? You know, I think we'll have more communication there. That's a request. Would you be willing? The request is made without a demand. So as I said before, demand means that there's some implicit punishment if you don't do it. So a request is just basically that. Would you be willing? And implicit in that is, would you be willing to do it joyfully? Joyfully. You know, happily, joyfully. Like if there's a husband and wife and the husband says, would you be willing to play cricket with me? Sorry for using that example. And if the wife hears that as a demand instead of a request, the opposite of request is demand, the wife will think, if I can say no, then he won't talk to me for a week. I mean, obviously you don't play cricket together, so I'm not worried about that. So he won't talk to me for a week, or the man may be thinking she'll be in a bad mood if he makes a demand. If there's a demand. But if it's a request, the person says, I'm not really into cricket. Okay, that's all right. No problem. I just thought you might want to do it. That's a request. So making requests to people connects with people, because you're willing to accept them as they are, rather than to try to make them in the image of the way you would want them to be, or use them, or demand from them. Any questions about that? Yeah.
There's something that I do personally that I don't know if you covered it or not, but let's say there's a weakness in me, and Guru Bhavana is kind of chastising me, and he's making me aware of that weakness. Well, you don't love the devotees, you don't care about them, you just care about yourself. And I'll sit there and listen, and I'll say, actually, you're right. Maybe I should improve. But then I don't.
Well, first of all, you're blaming yourself. That was the 4-chair exercise.
Yeah.
So he's making a diagnosis. You do not care. You do not have love for the devotees. Now, I'm sure sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But we're not static entities. We're dynamic entities. So the way I would use to process this, and remember, I'm not saying right or wrong, but it's an effective way, is I would say, when he said that, you know, I felt pretty horrible, because I do have a need to connect to the devotees. I do have a need for social interaction. I do have a need for appreciation. And let me think of some strategy. Let me plan some strategy. This is very important when we're doing self-empathy. He said that, I feel this, I have that need, therefore, I'm going to develop a strategy. I'm going to develop a strategy. You don't have to go into that. This request means with others, or you can request yourself. But I'm going to develop a strategy to fulfill that need. Once you take responsibility for your own needs, you will develop a strategy to fulfill those needs. If you don't take a responsibility, you will wait for others or blame others. And you'll be waiting a hell of a long time for others to fulfill your needs. In other words, it won't happen. If I have a need for fun or play, and I go to Kamsa and you know, I just think that he has to do it, I'm just going to get frustrated. And if he refuses to do it, or whatever. But if I just make a request to him, and he says, no, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like baseball. I like cricket. You know, you Americans always like baseball, it's a nonsense game. Cricket is the original, the naughty game. Baseball is for sissies, wimps, or whatever you call them here. And so therefore, I'll just pick someone else to play baseball with. Put great, you can play baseball. And if that doesn't work, I'll find someone else. Find someone else. At least because my sannyasi has to be a man. I don't go play baseball with ladies. So the point is, once you get a strategy, take responsibility for it yourself. You're not going to make demands on people. Because you're taking responsibility. If someone doesn't want to do it, that's his choice. It's not my fault, not his fault, his choice. And so you find the right person to make a request. And really, you don't want to play cricket with someone who can't do it joyfully anyway. Do you? I mean, if someone is in a bad mood, it's just like miserable to be with them. When you force someone, say, you know, play cricket. You know, if you force your wife to play cricket with you, she just somehow or other did it. I mean, you wouldn't hear the end of it for the next 2 months. You know, you forced me to play cricket. Now you have to do what I want to do. Do people ever do stuff like that? I'm not saying you do, but I know people do that, you know. That's called a tit for tat. You know, you gotta, I did what you did, what I didn't want to do this night, and tomorrow you gotta do what I want to do. Tomorrow we're going shopping for new dresses, whether you like it or not. No, I'm sure they don't do that, but I'm just making an example.
Sounds really
So in other words, anytime we ask someone to do something, it should be only if you can joyfully do it. Isn't it so nice to be with someone who's joyfully giving something? Like prasadam. So for example, if I want some prasadam for dinner, and I just demand, let's say I demand kundri, say, cook this, cook that, I want it at 5 o'clock exactly. And he said, well, I'm not feeling well. I don't care. You're a disciple, you have to do it. You know, otherwise it's a Vaishnava Aparada. And then he'll go in the kitchen. And it probably will taste horrible, but at least I'll get the bad vibes from him. So instead, what I say is if someone wants to cook for me, it's fine. Like, you know, Vishaka is cooking voluntarily. I don't have to say you have to do it. She's doing it from her heart. I mean, that's what I want. When someone does service for me, I want it from the heart. I don't want someone doing service or giving me a donation or anything if they feel they have to do it. It's just like, it's a miserable circumstance. I don't want it. I'd rather do it myself than actually have someone feel they have to do it for me. Because then you have a nice relationship. Joyful. Don't we want joyful relationships with people? So a request is the opposite, again, of a demand. If you can do it joyfully. If you can do it joyfully. And in a temple, the management should be striving for that particular dynamic. And also when dealing with children. I was talking to a couple the other night. They had a 2-year-old, and the mother came to me and complained, said, my 2-year-old is making a mess. Should I force her to clean up? And I said, no. Because if you force her to clean up, she may do it. 2-year-old. She may do it, but later on in life, she's never going to want to clean again. When she gets older, she's going to be the biggest mess, and you won't have a good relationship with her. And she said, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Just let her make a mess? I said, no. What you do is express to her in her own language, your own language, in a very simple way, how the mess, or that's a diagnosis, but anyways, it's a little bit, how things all over the floor are not meeting her needs and your needs. Like, don't you like it when everything is really clean? And then you get down with her and you clean with her at the same time, make it fun. And that's how someone will learn how to clean. Like, my mother was the opposite. I always use the example of my mother in these seminars. My mother was the opposite. If I didn't make my bed properly with hospital corners, you know what hospital corners are? Women don't know what that is? That means, you know, the little diagonal thing at the corner. If I didn't make it properly, she would tear the sheets off the bed and throw them on the floor. It's like the army. Well, I was in the army when I was 5 years old. You know, just like, yes, ma'am. So, what I ended up doing, two things. But now I have a hard time making a bed even when I'm 61 years old. Because it's still like a traumatic experience for me. And then, what I did to her is I went to her bed and I short sheeted it. Do you know what that is? I think some of you who have been in the army or would understand that is. That means you take the sheet and fold it over double, lengthwise of the bed, so that when someone gets in, the bed is only half the length. Does everyone follow it? You know, you have the sheet, you know, getting into the bed, so it looks like you got two sheets there, but it's only one sheet. And it's folded over in half towards the length of the bed, and so you can only get in half the way. Try that with someone sometime. It's very frustrating. So in other words, I became more rebellious and also ultimately did learn how to clean. So requests are definitely preferable to demands. Yeah.
Immediately I'm thinking about foreign meditations that, for example, you want somebody to chant 16 rounds.
Right.
And very much in the same way of when they preach, you have to chant 16 rounds on this. You can go home to Krishna.
Well, we can phrase it a different way. If you want to go home to Krishna, here's the strategy. It's your choice. Because there are natural repercussions to every action. Natural repercussions. I mean, there's a natural result for every action. So you present as a natural result. Like, first of all, you ask me, what is your goal in life? Do you want to go back to Krishna? Or do you want to stay here in the material world? It's up to you. Free will. You can stay here. You don't have to go back to Krishna. Krishna doesn't want you if you have to go back. He wants you voluntarily. So, you get someone, you know, if they want, they say, yeah, I really want to go back to Krishna. And then they ask you, how do I do it? And here's how you do it. You know, 16 rounds. And then you explain the reason for 16 rounds. Why do we chant 16 rounds? Why do we chant Hare Krishna mantra at all? Because it connects us with Krishna. And when you do 16 rounds, it gives you that connection so you feel spiritual potency. You present all the benefits in 16 rounds. You know, there's so many benefits we can present. Why the four regulative principles? Then you can go over each one of them. Sometimes I do that during initiations. I say, you know, here are the four regulative principles. I say, we did not pick these four because these are your four favorite activities and we want to torture you. Because sometimes people, you know, people in the West sometimes think, hey, why didn't they pick something easy like no cabbage, no beets? You know, it's something really easy, something I hate to do. Why did they pick the four things that are just hardest for me? Well, then I explained. I said, look, then I go through a whole explanation about compassion, whole explanation about how what you eat, you are what you eat, affects the modes of nature, explanation about karma. And then they understand the reason behind the four regulative principles. It's not just you have to follow the four regulative principles, but why do you follow the four regulative principles? What do you get out of following the four regulative principles? And what do you get out of not following the four regulative principles? So it becomes something intelligent. You make a choice. You make a choice. I mean, if you don't follow, if you eat meat, you know, the karmic reaction is such that you don't eat a cow, you take a cow birth for every hair on the cow. I mean, that's just manosamhita business. So you choose. You have a choice. It's your choice. But if you want to go back to Godhead, experience eternal bliss, love God, you know, revive your eternal spiritual nature, here's what we do, and this is why we do everything we do. So that's, for me, that's much better than just saying you have to do that. To give a reason behind, and intelligent people will ask a reason. You know, the devotees have all these rules and regulations. Why do you get up early in the morning? I hate to get up early in the morning. I don't, but I'm saying people will say that to you. I just hate it. It's an ungodly hour. You hear that expression? You devotees get up at an ungodly hour in the morning. Actually, it's the most godly. Then you explain the modes of nature. Each part of the day has a specific mode of nature, right? This mode of goodness is prominent in the morning, and later on, about 8 or 9 guys, later on, about 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, the mode of passion becomes prominent, and at night, what mode of nature becomes prominent? After about 9 o'clock. Ignorance. So we like being goodness. Why? Goodness gives happiness. Goodness gives clarity of thought. That's why we chose that time. Not just that you have to get up in the morning, but here's why you get up in the morning. And then you appeal to people's intelligence, and they make a decision. Because if it's forced, they won't do it. I mean, they may do it right away, but then they won't do it for the next 10, 20, or 30 years. We want to keep devotees doing these things. Not just like for the first 5 years until they get initiation, and then they're gone. I like to keep people their whole lives. My goal is to keep people in Krishna consciousness their whole lives. So, okay, does everyone understand that whole? Sure, yeah.
I have a question. Why shall we accept people as they are? It is all right. But shall we not try to bring them to a stage, to a better stage or a higher stage?
Yeah, that's compassion.
Yeah.
Yes, we should, and the way we do that is by
Being an example?
being an example. That's one thing. Yeah, an example of
Give
Krishna
them a
consciousness.
book.
What?
Give them a book.
Give them a book. That offers them something. But ultimately, it's up to them.
Yeah.
We can't push someone to a higher stage. We can pull them to a higher stage. Understand the difference? Pulling means by attraction. Oh, I really want to be like you. Or I really want that. That's pulling, magnetism. But if you push, you've got to be like that. You've got to be like that. You know, wake up. I remember when I was temple commander, I was a brahmachari before any of you were born. I used to wake the brahmacharis up by, first of all, playing cartels right by their head. That's not a nice way to wake up in the morning. And then if they didn't wake up, I would drag their sleeping bags into the shower and turn on the water. Didn't make many friends.
Your mother's style.
My mother's style. No, but this was also, the devotees did that in the temple. I can't blame my mother for everything. So, I mean, that's the way I did. I mean, I didn't inspire people to come to Mangalarti, but it was, you know, it was a miserable experience for them and a miserable experience for me, too, at the same time. So we offer. Yes. How? We offer. Here's Krishna consciousness. It's so nice. But they have to see it so nice. If they don't, you know, they come in the temple and everybody is, you've got to get up, you've got to get up, you've got to get up in the morning. I don't know if you know that song. That's an army song. Anyone here was ever in the army? There's an army song. Oh, how I hate to get up in the morning. Oh, how I hate to get up. You always heard that song. An American army song. Oh. So, the common song. So, if people come to the temple and you gotta get up, wake up, you gotta chant your rounds, sit through a 5-hour class, get some hemorrhoids. I don't know if you know what that is, but anyway. You know, the person giving the class should be compassionate too, and not make people sit through, you know, 5-hour classes. You know, because everyone's thinking, I pray to Krishna, it's over soon. Krishna, let it end. The person giving class is thinking, it's ecstatic, everyone's in ecstasy, but everyone else is going, Krishna, please let it end. So, if people come to the temple, they should see everyone, it's joyfully performed, right? Then you get people to join. I mean, if people come here and everyone's smiling and happy, but if everyone's like this, then will join the temple. I mean, that's the best way to get people to join. It's a good example, you know, an example of happiness, an example of friendliness. So I remember I was on one airline in the South Pacific, and I never wanted to fly them because they were just not friendly at all. Then they changed their whole motto of the airline to the friendliest airline in the sky. And as soon as they changed, you know, their mission statement, then they all started smiling. It was just like a simple consciousness change. They all started smiling. The stewardess said, you know, how are you, Mr. Swami? It's good to see you again. You know, they got a little too friendly. But so they were, but it was great. It was fantastic. I mean, I said, wow, it was the best airline I've ever flown. Because they had the hospitality and friendliness. I mean, maybe it was a little artificial, but sometimes we should do that. I was thinking we should do that in the temple. Friendliest religious movement, or the friendliest spiritual movement. Have it written on the wall, so everyone remembers it written on the t-shirts or something like that. And you'll make devotees. That's a good technique for making devotees. Because people will come in and say, you know, they'll be like, oh, how are you doing? You want some prasada? The Prabhupada said we should always keep like 20 plates of prasada ready for people coming to the temple, right? So if you want some prasada, if you need anything, well, it's so good to see you. Here's a present, here's a Bhagavad Gita or a little book or something like that. And people say, wow, these are nice people. And then the Mormons do that. That's one of the techniques the Mormons, you see Mormons. They're the Americans with the ties and jackets who walk around everywhere. And they're just very kind and open and hospitable. So anyway, so there's a lot to be said about winning people with sugar, you know, with nice things or voluntary things. So any other questions about what we'll be covering so far?
Prabhu, I just want to ask you, what would be an appropriate title for this, group of lectures you're presenting? Could we call it "Why You're Chanting and You're Not Happy"?
Yeah, that would be good. I mean, yeah, definitely have to give it a better, attractive title than I'm thinking now. You know, Path of Communication doesn't say anything. But, yeah, or a subtitle. Why are you not becoming happy by chanting? Why are you feeling disconnected? That's good. Thank you for that.
Yes, but then
I
again,
need to market it better.
if you had to summarize the answer, what would be the answer in summary?
Because you're not in touch with yourself, with Krishna.
Would another possible answer be because you don't have the intelligence?
Well, that would be a diagnosis. Then someone would be saying, because you're stupid. That's the same thing that you say. Why am I not happy? Because I'm stupid. All right. It feels real good, you know. So because I'm not in touch with my inner self. You know, that'd be a real new agey thing to say, because I'm not in touch with my inner self. So that might work. Thank you for the marketing tip, because I'm not the best marketers. I'm best at marketers, yeah.
I heard a class by Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and he said that what you said, a person would come up to them with their child and say, please tell my child to act properly. And he said, what is my 5-minute sermon to this child going to do when the rest of the year they're acting improperly at home?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the parents who are responsible for that.
Right, so the child is going to see the example of the father.
Not the parents. Yeah, example is better than precept. So I just want to do one final thing. This is a very quick overview. And this chart pretty much summarizes everything. You're all welcome to, yeah.
Do you have some notes, PowerPoint notes? Or
Yeah, I have
something
PowerPoints, I have notes, I have volumes and things I can send to people, email. Especially PowerPoints would be good. I stopped using PowerPoints for this presentation because it really disconnects me from people. But PowerPoints are good on an individual basis for someone to look at. Because they're the essential points that I'm
Why does
looking
it
at.
disconnect?
Why does it disconnect me? Because you're reading the PowerPoint, and I'm looking at the PowerPoint. Very few people who do these sorts of seminars, the connection seminars, use PowerPoints. Because they really do disconnect you from the people you're dealing with. Most of the times when I'm giving the seminar, I won't have everyone seated like this. everybody will be in a circle. Nobody will be outside of the circle. Everybody will be in the circle next to each other. They'll be looking at each other. See, now you're just basically looking at me. It's really not an effective way to do it. You'll be sitting in a circle, looking at each other, sharing. We'll go around the room doing different things, rather than in the standard classroom type of dynamic, which is what I'm doing right now. But for basic presentation, this works. But for intensive experience, it's better to be in circle. Much better to be in circle. So, yeah, I have plenty of notes, plenty of PowerPoints that I can share. I mean, I spend a lot of time doing the PowerPoints, but I'm really not enthusiastic about using them for presentation anymore. Because then I just think of the PowerPoints, read from the PowerPoints. And each time I do the presentation, it's different. I mean, I have a basic course outline, which I've developed. That really wouldn't help you that much, because this is just my notes to myself. But the PowerPoints are much more inclusive.
I think in terms of examples here,
What's that, this chart?
this figure here, they have this,
Yeah, I can send that to you. I have that on the computer. I have it on the computer graphic, and usually when I'm doing the seminars, I pass out a copy to everybody. So they can, I also have a two-page summary of the whole process. Everything in 2 pages, somewhere. Just a 2-page summary, it's just very simple. One side is the blocks of compassion, the 4 Ds, and explains what it is. And the other side is the process, basic outline of the model. And everything's within this 1 page, on two sides of 1 page, yeah. So if anyone sends me an email, I'll be happy to send these, those materials, simple materials, to them that explain everything. That's, I know this is so brief, but that's all we had time for. Especially this chart. This is a printout of the chart, as you see here, which is a lot more neat. And it's neater than I wrote it. Right here. And you can just keep it on the wall and look at it. And then also I have lists. Here's another nice thing. There's a list of needs, so you become needs being met, needs not being met, feelings, and a list of needs somewhere here. Here's basic human needs that are printouts and handouts that I give to people. See that? It's a basic list of human needs. So at least the basic materials are very easy. It's just like 5 pages, 6 pages of stuff. And that really helps when I understand the process. If I don't have any other questions, there's one final thing I wanted to show, which is really important to me before we break, because I don't want to go too late. It's the methodology of appreciating someone. As we know, at least according to last night's class, appreciation is one of the basic human needs. Now, I'm not talking about praise. Praise is different from appreciation. With praise, it's just a diagnosis. I'll give you an example of Kamsa Hunt again, since I like to interact with him. Oh, you're so nice. You're such a great person, such a responsible person. I mean, how do you feel after that?
Well, it's nice.
It's nice,
but not like...
It doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't encourage you to, it's not inspiring. It's just like, it may encourage you to be real proud. Yeah, I'm great, I'm wonderful, fantastic. It must be the truth because you said it.
It's like junk food, no nutrition.
Yeah, no nutrition. It's like junk food. And then your wife will say, I don't know why you said that to you. It's absolutely not a fact. So, I'm just joking. But then, instead, let's say, okay, let's say you brought me today my favorite food. I don't know what my favorite, let's say, hypothetically, let's say it's a mango. And I would say that comes out of that, thank you very much. This is the whole process again. You brought me a mango. I felt really good that you brought me a mango because I had a need for nutrition and also it fulfilled my need for appreciation too, that showed that, that's, you bring an apple to the teacher, a mango to the guru. And it fulfilled my needs. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. That does much more, isn't it? Because then it's very specific, And it really goes to the heart of the matter. So that's not praise. So I'm not puffing him up. I'm just sharing my joy with him over what he did for me. And then, how would you respond to that?
I don't know. I think I would be kind of, I don't know, overwhelmed or something like that.
Yeah, so that's good.
It would definitely touch.
Yes, I thank you very much. I mean, I feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Sometimes a person will say something different. They'll say, it was nothing. That is like a denial of the appreciation. That's a general thing people say. You know, that, oh, you brought this in. It was nothing. That's like a slap in the face. You know.
It's very common in Denmark. He said like it was so little. It was a little.
Yeah.
It
was so little.
Very common in Danish.
But it's just like, huh? I just feel like slapping in the face if someone says that to me. I mean, just like I opened my heart up. I was vulnerable. You know, part of learning this process of empathy is another thing called vulnerability. You know, really open yourself up. You can get hurt, or you can connect with others. Just like, you know, I felt really, you know, because most of the time we don't express how we feel or appreciate that sort of appreciation. But it really strikes someone. Yeah, it's really good. I mean, I can give some examples of it back here. Prabhupada actually utilized, interestingly enough, this method of appreciation. Here's one. The same method. Of course, Prabhupada did not study the brothers, but it was natural for Prabhupada. Dear Jayananda, this is a famous letter, I'm feeling very intensely your separation. In 1967, you joined me. This is actually a posthumous appreciation. It means after Jayananda passed away. In 1967, you joined me in San Francisco. You were driving my car and chanting Hare Krishna. You were the first man to give me some contribution, $5,000 for printing my Bhagavad Gita. So, you know, so Prabhupada is listing very specific things here. Not just that you were such a good disciple. He said, so I hope at the time of your death, whoops, where's the rest of this thing? At the time of your death. I know I had the rest of it, it's just a little out of order. You were remembering Krishna as such, you've been promoted to the eternal association with Krishna. So that's a famous letter. So in other words, Prabhupada was expressing his appreciation, and his joy is implicit in there, and giving a blessing too. You know, I'm blessing you at the time of death to go back to Godhead. Here's another one. I thank you very much for installing Radha Giridhari. This is to a letter to devotee in San Diego where they have Radha Giridhari. You know Radha Giridhari. You've been there. From my childhood, I was very much fond of Radha Krishna, and now my good disciples are helping me to open so many Radha Krishna temples all over the world. It gives me so much pleasure. Okay, so here's observation. And what's the next one? Feelings, Prabhupada's feelings. Now, he probably makes a request. Now introduce Rathayatra. That was my childhood activity. I want to see my disciples all over the world introduce two items in opening Radha Krishna temples and Rathayatra festivals. Do this under the protection of Guru Brahma. So here Prabhupada just like slips in a request, which is really interesting. So here's another one. I have studied your activities while in Honolulu. That's Hawaii. And it gives me great pleasure to find such devotees qualified as you are in our society. I wish you will execute responsibilities in the future in the matter of our society's multi-activities. So Prabhupada was recognizing, expressing his emotions, and also his request. And you find that Prabhupada did this quite often in his letters. I cannot think of a situation where Prabhupada just gave a general praise to anyone. Like, you are such a good disciple. I wish I had more like you. I just can't think of any where Prabhupada gave that sort of general praise. There's always something in relationship to something specific, like book distribution, or something that really pleased Prabhupada. Yeah.
Sometimes our spiritual master
can be quite far away, like physically nowadays, and you do not really want to write yourself maybe so much about the activities that you're doing. And so, I mean, personally, I just got a one a long ago from my spiritual master. Please help me to assist Srila Prabhupada in spreading Krishna
That's wonderful.
consciousness.
That's a request, yeah.
Yes, but there was not like a specific, and so I thought that if I just work together with the devotees and help in whatever they think is important, or please them in a loving mood like that, that would please the spiritual master, but there is not this specific.
Not specific? Yeah, but I think there's an implicit specificity in that, because it's understood according to Srila Prabhupada's directions. Implicit in that is the specific instruction. Because it's not going to please your spiritual master if you do something against Srila Prabhupada's directions. So implicit in that would be the specific according to Srila Prabhupada's desire. So sometimes there'll be a general request. Now requests generally should be very specific, time-bound, etc., like that. But there'll be an implicit understanding, a general request, then it's then it becomes specific like that. You understand?
But can one please like that? The
Can one-
spiritual master like that? Or
Can one
should
please the
he-
spiritual
I mean, would you be pleased like that, having a disciple that you do not really know what they are doing, and like every time I write, for example, I just write that I'm very happy working with the devotees and a little bit some few project, but I mean
I think what would please, as far as communication, email or something like that, I think the thing that pleases me the most is to hear something specifically the person is doing.
so one should work.
Not just that, dear Srila Prabhupada, I really love Krishna now. And I love Krishna much more now than I used to. But something specific, dear Srila Prabhupada, I've always chanted, even just a simple thing, I've fulfilled my vow of chanting 16 rounds every day. I'm waking up early every day, I'm trying to serve the devotees. It's a very specific thing, then it's much more pleasing. It doesn't have to be something spectacular. Dear Srila Prabhupada, I distributed 5,000 books last month. But I think it's something specific actually is much more encouraging. But in the praise that we give someone, like in praising your spiritual master, here's an example I use, I get a book of praise, mostly praise every year of myself. It's called, what is it called? It's called the Vyasa Puja book, like this. You're wonderful, you're great, you got lotus feet, can't be beat. And, it's not that it really is something like bedtime reading for me. Bedtime, I'd rather read Krishna book. Open it up, same thing. You're wonderful, you're sweet. You've got lotus glasses. I don't know. Everything. Glasses, lotus. But if I hear that, you gave a lecture and you said this during the lecture, and it really gave me so much inspiration for my Krishna consciousness. That is so inspiring for me to hear, because it encourages me in devotional service. General praise, practically the only thing you can do is get me bored at this point, because I've heard it. Whatever you say in terms of general praise, I've heard it 1,000 times before. So, I'm happy you're saying it, like that. But it's just like, seen it, been there, done it. But when you tell me something I've really specifically done, just one little, even if it's a little tiny thing, it just really inspires me. It's really inspirational. So that's called appreciation. And that's in a nutshell description of appreciation. And Prabhupada used it, and the more we use it, the more we'll inspire each other in devotional service. I can say lita nafit. Today you took me to see your garden, and I saw just a little thing. I saw how nicely the spinach was growing, and you expressed to me how determined you were to show how devotees could engage in simple living, high thinking in the city, and support themselves in the city. It really made me feel good that someone is taking that instruction of Srila Prabhupada to heart. Thank you for doing this. I mean, how do you feel when I say that?
Nice.
You feel nice.
And also, not only nice, but also I can see actually I mean, you might be just now just thinking about it, but I think actually, okay, I'm doing the right thing, actually, so I can continue.
Yeah, with more enthusiasm too.
Yeah, and you know, enthusiasm and also conviction, it's might be a good thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say that if it's just empty praise, I have no direction in life from that.
Yeah, or even if you're a good devotee. Or even you're a good gardener. That's just praise for gardening. It doesn't really do anything for you. Because I have to express my feelings to give you real appreciation. You know, that I really felt inspired when I saw that. You know, someone is doing what Srila Prabhupada really wanted in that regard. And it's so practical. And devotees should learn this. You know, just then he's inspired to go further with it. So that's what I'm talking about, appreciation. So I think we'll end here with some practicing of appreciation. Now this is a very interesting exercise. Instead of breaking up into twos, how we usually do it, I'm going to ask for hands, not just to take your hands away, but I'm going to ask you to raise your hand if you're bold enough to pray, to appreciate someone else in this room for something they did. And don't use me either, please. Because then it just becomes, you know, appreciating the teacher exercise. And I got a whole bunch of appreciations in the back of the book here for the seminar, and I don't, you know, I like appreciations, but if you want to appreciate me, write it down and send it to me, email. But I would like you to do a little exercise amongst yourselves and see how it builds up a relationship. So anyone volunteer to appreciate someone else in the room? Yeah.
I could appreciate most of them, but I want to appreciate Pundariki Prabhu because he encouraged me in a very nice way to attend your lectures, even though I wasn't entirely compliant.
And how do you feel about that?
I always felt a friend of Pundarik, but even more so.
So what is your feeling?
I don't have real feelings, I'm afraid. Can I fake some? Yes, I'm. It's joyful. It's not ecstatic, but it's joyful.
Joyful, warm in the heart.
I missed that part of the lecture. I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
That's all right. If you missed it, it's fine. That's fine. I'm trying to demonstrate how to do. Not that everyone will go to this whole lecture or the seminar, but how you interact with someone in terms of finding out their emotion. I'm guessing your feelings.
Yes, I was, like I said, I am a friend of Pundarik, but on this occasion, he invited me to this event, even though I was kind of here, but he invited me to this event in the best possible way, I found. We never have friction anywhere, I think, but this was not, this was the opposite of friction. This was maybe the warmth you were talking about.
Good. You appreciate it, and you feel real good about it. So he's thanking you. So how do you feel, Pundarik?
Oh, I feel.
How do you feel based on what he said?
I'm amazed.
Amazed. That's it. So he's reciprocating with your appreciation. That's good. So anyone tell you want to appreciate?
Mogidrik.
Yeah.
Because he's very quiet and reserved and almost a little shy, but he's very hardworking, and he's willing to do anything at any time. And he just goes about it. There's no showmanship.
Give me an example of a specific thing.
Over
one specific thing.
the need to the altar.
What?
When there's no pejorative.
No. One specific thing that he did. Yesterday, there was no pejorative, you know. Specific time.
No, I can't think of that right now. It's a general,
Yeah, so that's a
appreciation.
general
That-
praise.
he's always on the altar
Yeah,
doing what's
but
needful.
that's,
Okay,
that's a general praise. It's almost like a diagnosis.
okay.
Forgive me, I'm trying to teach
Okay.
this to devotees. It's like a diagnosis, always on the altar. Yeah.
I would like to express my appreciation to thanks to Krishna Prabhu, because today, after we have been out trying to distribute prasadam, we came home and he said that he didn't distribute much. The tent broke down, so they have lots of, almost nothing was distributed. They have lots of kitchen left and all the things. But he was totally equipoised. He didn't seem affected at all in any negative way. I know myself, I would have reacted if I was the boss. I would feel a little disturbed, like, oh no, what are we going to do? We made all this for nothing, probably we can't use tomorrow because it will be spoiled and so on. But he was like totally unaffected, like in a like transcendental mood. He didn't even smile. So this, I really felt inspired by that. Also, I should
You got inspired.
get that same mood when things are going wrong materially. We should not be touched by that.
All right.
That was nice inspiration for me.
You felt inspired by how we acted. It's good. Yeah.
I wanted to help the disciple with something specific to praise, not to preach, not to praise, but to appreciate